In today's Reddit story, "He's too dumb to question it. My wife laughed as she secretly tricked me into raising another man's baby. He'll never find out." I just stayed silent until the day she opened a letter and realized she'd just signed away full custody to the real father. My name is Ethan, 32M, and for the past 5 years, I thought I had a solid marriage with my wife, Lena, 30F. We weren't perfect, but I loved her. She was charming, kind, at least that's what I thought. A few months ago, she dropped a bombshell. "Ethan, I'm pregnant." At first I was stunned. We had agreed not to have kids yet. Lena had insisted she was still on birth control. But before I could even process my emotions, she looked at me expectantly, almost like she was waiting to see how I'd react. I played along, smiling and hugging her, though something about her energy felt off. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The math wasn't adding up. She was supposedly on birth control. We hadn't been intimate as often lately, due to my work schedule. The last time we were together wasn't even in the right time frame for conception. Doubt crept in, but still, I didn't want to assume the worst. I convinced myself, maybe accidents happen. Maybe it's just a miracle baby. But my gut told me something was wrong. The moment everything clicked, 2 weeks later, I was in the living room when I heard Lena giggling on the phone. She was in the kitchen, not even bothering to lower her voice. "Oh my God, he has no idea," she snickered. "I swear, Ethan's too dumb to ever question it. He'll never find out." My stomach dropped. She was talking about me. She lowered her voice, making it harder to hear, but at that point, I didn't need to. I sat frozen on the couch, my mind racing. Find out what? Find out that the baby wasn't mine? That she had been cheating? That she had planned this? I clenched my jaw, forcing myself to breathe. My instinct was to barge in and confront her right there. But no, she was too confident, too smug. She thought I was clueless. That meant I had the advantage. I took a deep breath and silently walked out of the house. I wasn't about to make accusations without proof. If I was going to take her down, I needed evidence. Check her phone? Too risky. She was protective of it. Look through our bank statements? Not helpful. Track where she goes? Bingo. That night, I planted a small GPS tracker in her car. Nothing illegal, just a simple location-sharing device tied to our family's shared network. If she wasn't hiding anything, there'd be no issue. 3 days later, I checked the data. Her regular stops all made sense: work, grocery store, gym. But one new address kept appearing late at night, an apartment complex across town. My pulse quickened. This was it. I drove over and parked a block away. I wasn't going to storm in. I just needed to see. I waited, and sure enough, at exactly 10:45 p.m., Lena's car pulled into the lot. A man stepped out of a third-floor apartment and walked toward her. He was smiling. They hugged. She kissed him. I felt sick, but I still needed to know who the hell he was. I snapped a few discreet photos and ran them through social media searches. Within minutes, I had his name. Marcus, 35M, a former coworker of hers. Recently divorced, no kids. This wasn't just some random affair, this was planned. I drove home in silence. A million emotions ran through me: rage, betrayal, disgust. But underneath it all, a new feeling emerged. Clarity. I now knew the truth. She had been cheating. She was pregnant with another man's child. She had no idea I had caught her. And that was my greatest weapon. I wasn't just going to leave. She was going to suffer. I sat in my car for almost an hour that night, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. Everything inside me wanted to storm into that apartment, confront Marcus, and scream at Lena for betraying me. But I didn't. Because if I confronted her now, she'd just lie. She'd gaslight me, cry, and say, "It was a mistake," or "It's still your baby, Ethan. You'll be a great dad." No, she needed to believe she had me under her thumb. I wasn't just going to leave. I was going to take everything from her. I needed proof. Hard, undeniable proof. The affair had photos of her with Marcus. The paternity fraud? Not yet. Legal protection? I needed a lawyer. First, I started digging into her phone records. I pulled up our shared phone bill, which logged all outgoing calls and texts. Hundreds of calls to Marcus. Late-night texts every single day. A few days before she announced the pregnancy, she texted him. I told him. He totally bought it. I took screenshots of everything and backed them up. Now I had direct evidence of deception. Since I couldn't legally demand a paternity test yet, I had to be smart about it. One evening, I casually brought up genetics. Hey, did your parents ever have any weird genetic conditions? Lena, why? I was reading about how doctors are doing early genetic testing on newborns. They can catch diseases early now. Her eyes didn't even flicker. She had no idea what I was doing. A week later, when she went to the doctor, I called the clinic. Hey, I just want to confirm something. My wife is pregnant, and I want to make sure they do a full genetic screening when the baby is born. Nurse, of course, many parents opt for it. Would you like to add the full panel? Yes, I heard that includes paternity confirmation too, right? That's correct. I just got her to unknowingly agree to a DNA test at birth. Here's something a lot of men don't know. If you sign the birth certificate, you're legally on the hook for child support, even if the baby isn't yours. I needed to make sure I didn't sign anything. So I called my lawyer. Hypothetically speaking, what happens if a married man finds out his wife is pregnant with another man's baby? Are you asking for a friend? Yeah. Let's say the wife commits paternity fraud. Can he avoid child support? Yes, but only if he contests paternity immediately and refuses to sign the birth certificate. Now I knew exactly what I had to do. As long as I refused to sign, I was legally free. I needed her to sign away custody to the real father. But how do you make someone sign something without realizing it? That's when I had an idea. One night, I sat Lena down and acted excited about the baby. Hey, I've been thinking, we should plan ahead, just in case something happens to us. Like, legally. What if we both got sick? We should set up a document that ensures the baby is taken care of, right? She shrugged, not even looking at the papers I slid in front of her. What was buried inside? A clause that transferred custody rights to the biological father in case of a dispute. She didn't even read it. She just signed. Now, all I had to do was wait for the DNA results. I kept playing the role of the loving, supportive husband while she secretly laughed behind my back. She still thought I was too dumb to ever figure it out. She had no idea that her entire world was about to collapse. For weeks, I kept up the perfect husband act. I still rubbed her belly. I still talked about baby names. I still let her believe she had me completely fooled. But every morning, I checked my email like a man waiting for a bomb to drop. Then, one day, it arrived. Subject, genetic screening results, confirmation of parentage. I opened the email and scrolled down until I saw it. Paternity test, 0.0%, probability of relationship. There it was, cold, undeniable proof. Lena's entire plan just collapsed. I wasn't the father, and legally, I never would be. I exhaled slowly, my heart pounding, not with panic, but with satisfaction. Most men would have stormed into the house, screaming. I didn't, because Lena still thought she had me trapped. That night, I walked into the kitchen, calm and quiet. She was scrolling through her phone, sipping tea, completely oblivious. I slid an envelope across the table. Lena, the hospital sent over the genetic results. I thought you'd want to see them. She barely glanced up, smiling. Oh, finally. See, I told you there was nothing to worry about. Then she opened it, and I watched her face drop. What the hell is this? She frantically scanned the document, her fingers tightening around the paper. Ethan, this has to be a mistake. It's not. I slid another document across the table. Do you remember when I told you we should ensure the baby's legal protection? Her eyes flicked to the paperwork. Her own signature stared back at her. Clause 7b. In the event of any paternity dispute, full parental rights are assigned to the biological father. Ethan Carter, me, waives all paternal rights. Marcus Gray, her lover, assumes legal responsibility. Her breath hitched. Ethan, no, you tricked me. No, Lena, I just let you believe I was dumb. Her hands were shaking. Wait, this doesn't matter. Marcus won't take the baby. I'll still... Her phone buzzed on the table. I smiled. You should answer that. She snatched her phone and answered. Lena, Marcus, Lena, what the hell did you do? What are you talking about? I just got a legal notice from family court saying I'm listed as the father. Baby, don't worry, you can just deny it. Are you an idiot? I have 30 days to contest it. If I don't, I'm legally the father by default. Wait, what? That's not how this works. It is now. You signed papers saying I'm the father. But, Marcus, you said you'd be there for me. I'm not paying for a kid I never wanted. I'm moving to another state. Click. He hung up. She turned to me, her mouth opening and closing. Ethan, you can still fix this. Please, just say you'll be the dad. Please. I stood up. Lena, I was never this baby's father. You made sure of that. I grabbed my keys and headed for the door. Ethan, wait, Lena screamed. I walked out. After Marcus abandoned her, Lena had only one option left: try to drag me back in. She knew I had legally removed myself from the child's life, but she still believed she could manipulate the system to get money from me. So she did the one thing desperate people do. She took me to court. Lena's argument: Your Honor, Ethan was my husband during my pregnancy. Legally, he should be responsible for the baby. I sat in the courtroom, completely calm. I had been waiting for this. Her lawyer stood up dramatically, launching into a speech about marital obligations and financial responsibilities. Your Honor, my client was deceived into signing documents she did not understand. She is now the single mother of a child, and we are seeking child support from her husband. I just smirked and turned to my lawyer. Your Honor, we have overwhelming evidence that Mrs. Carter knowingly committed paternity fraud. And then we dropped the bombshell. First, we submitted the DNA test results. Proven, I was not the father. Proven, Lena was fully aware she had cheated. Second, we presented the signed custody clause. Proven, Lena voluntarily signed a legal document transferring parental responsibility to Marcus. The judge leaned back in his chair and sighed. Mrs. Carter, did you knowingly deceive Mr. Carter about the child's paternity? Lena swallowed hard. I mean, I thought maybe it could be his. Mrs. Carter, answer the question. Yes. Boom. She had just destroyed herself. The judge turned to Lena's lawyer, looking unimpressed. Your client's entire case is based on deception. Mr. Carter is under no legal obligation to support this child. My name was legally removed from anything related to the child. The court dismissed Lena's case immediately. Lena looked like she wanted to cry, but the final blow was yet to come. Since Marcus never contested the paternity notice in time, the court legally recognized him as the father, which meant they dragged him into this mess. He tried to argue his way out of it. Your Honor, I never agreed to this. She tricked me. Mr. Gray, did you contest the paternity claim within the legal time frame? No, but then under the law, you are the legal father. Your options are as follows: take full custody or pay child support. Marcus's face turned white. I can't take care of a baby. Judge, then you will be required to pay child support for the next 18 years. Lena whipped her head around, horrified. Wait, what? You have to take responsibility, Marcus. Like hell I do. This is your kid, not mine. I just sat there, watching them destroy each other. Marcus was legally forced to pay. Lena had no financial support from me. She was officially abandoned and alone. After the court case, Lena lost everything. She was stuck raising a baby alone. She had no financial support from me. Marcus disappeared after the ruling, but he still had to pay child support. She called me multiple times, begging me to reconsider. I never answered. I finalized my divorce. I moved to a new city, cutting off everyone from my past. I met someone new, someone who actually respects me. And Lena? She was stuck in a life she thought she could force me into. She had gambled and lost everything. After my surgery, my fiancée thought I was still under anesthesia when she told her friend. The doctor said no heavy lifting for 8 weeks. I'm stuck taking care of him when I could be with James. Her friend asked, why not leave? She said, his parents are adding me to their will next month. I recovered quickly, called my parents that night, and had her things moved to storage. It's been 3 days and she's still waiting in the hospital parking lot. 4 days ago, my life was completely different. 4 days ago, I, 37M, was engaged to Rachel, 32F, excitedly planning our wedding set for next spring. 4 days ago, I thought I knew who I was spending my life with. Funny how quickly things change when the mask slips, isn't it? I guess I should start from the beginning. I've had chronic back problems for years, herniated discs, sciatica, the works. All those college football injuries finally caught up with me. After exhausting every non-surgical option, my neurosurgeon recommended a spinal fusion. Not exactly how I planned to spend my summer, but the promise of less pain made it worth it. Rachel and I have been together for 4 years, engaged for 1. She's always been supportive of my health issues, at least outwardly. She'd rub my back during flare-ups, drive me to appointments when the pain meds made it unsafe for me to drive, and never complained about our occasionally limited activities. At least, that's what I thought. Surgery day arrived. Rachel drove me to the hospital at 5:30 a.m., held my hand as they prepped me, and was the last face I saw before the anesthesia kicked in. Standard procedure, they told me, would be about 4 hours. I'd spend a few hours in recovery, then move to a regular room for observation overnight. The surgery itself went well. The surgeon later told me they found more extensive damage than the MRI had shown, but they were able to address everything. I was lucky, he said. The procedure finished around noon, and I was wheeled into recovery. Here's where it gets interesting. I've always had a weird reaction to anesthesia. While most people take hours to fully wake up, I tend to regain consciousness relatively quickly, but remain groggy and still. The medical staff is usually surprised by how alert I am so soon after surgery, even though I'm still physically relaxed. This peculiarity has never been particularly noteworthy until now. I became aware of my surroundings in the recovery room maybe 30 to 45 minutes after surgery. Not fully alert, but conscious enough to register voices and some movement around me. My eyes were still closed, breathing slow and regular. I could hear nurses checking on other patients, the beeping of monitors, the typical recovery room soundtrack. Then I heard Rachel's voice. She must have been allowed in once I was stable. I felt her presence near my bed, though I couldn't muster the energy to open my eyes yet. "He's still out," she said, presumably to a nurse. "That's normal," came the reply. "The doctor will be by shortly to talk to you about the surgery." He did very well. I tried to signal that I was awake, but my body wasn't cooperating yet. Before I could make another attempt, I heard a different voice. Female, familiar, sounded like Rachel's friend Allie. "How did it go?" Allie asked. "Fine, I guess. Doctor hasn't been by yet," Rachel replied. Her voice sounded annoyed? Impatient? It didn't have the concerned tone I would have expected. They moved slightly away from my bed, but were still close enough that I could hear them clearly. "God, I'm exhausted already," Rachel continued. "The doctor said no heavy lifting for 8 weeks. I'm stuck taking care of him when I could be with James." James. The name hit like a bucket of ice water. James who? My brain, still foggy from anesthesia, struggled to place the name. I didn't know any James in our circle. "Why not leave?" Allie asked, her voice lowered but still audible. "I mean, it's not like you're married yet." There was a pause. I could almost picture Rachel looking around to make sure no one was listening. "His parents are adding me to their will next month. You know how loaded they are. The old man's health isn't great. Probably why they're updating everything. I just need to stick it out a little longer." My parents. My 65-year-old father, who'd built a successful construction company from nothing. My mother, who'd taught elementary school for 30 years before retiring. The people who'd welcomed Rachel into our family with open arms. The people who'd insisted on paying for our wedding because they were so happy I'd finally found the one. "That's cold, Rach. Even for you," Allie said, though she sounded more impressed than disapproving. "It's practical," Rachel replied. "Besides, it's not like I haven't earned it. 4 years listening to him talk about building projects and football, playing nice with his boring family, and now I have to play nurse for 2 months. What about James? He's getting impatient, you know? James will wait if he knows what's good for him. Look, once everything's legal and Richard Sr. kicks it, I'll be set. James can have his fun now, but he knows the score." Richard Sr. kicks it. My father. My father. They were talking about my father dying like it was a game plan, like it was something to look forward to. "And what if Mike wakes up and hears you talking like this?" Allie asked. Rachel laughed. Not the warm laugh I'd fallen in love with, something colder, sharper. "Please. They pump him so full of drugs he'll be lucky to remember his own name today. Besides, he trusts me completely. It's almost too easy." The conversation shifted then, to something about dinner plans and whether Allie could cover for Rachel meeting James tomorrow. I stopped focusing on their words, my mind reeling despite the drugs in my system. I'd like to say I confronted her right there. That I sat up in my hospital bed, pointed a dramatic finger, and exposed her treachery to everyone in the recovery room. That would have made for a better story, right? But that's not what happened. Instead, I made the split-second decision to keep playing unconscious, to gather more information, to not show my hand until I knew exactly what I was dealing with. Eventually, a nurse came over to check my vitals, and I woke up slowly, groggily, playing the part of the anesthesia patient they expected. Rachel was immediately by my side, the concerned fiancé, brushing hair from my forehead, asking how I felt. The performance was flawless. I'd have believed it myself if I hadn't heard what I just heard. "Hey babe," she cooed. "Everything went great. How are you feeling?" "Tired," I mumbled, which wasn't entirely an act. I was exhausted, though more from emotional shock than the surgery. "That's normal," she said, squeezing my hand. "I'm right here. I'll take good care of you." I almost laughed. Almost. The next few hours passed in a blur of doctor visits, nurse checks, and Rachel's constant attentiveness. Allie had left, but promised to check in tomorrow with a meaningful look at Rachel. I was moved to a regular room around 4 p.m., where I was told I'd stay overnight for observation. Rachel stayed until about 8 p.m., playing the devoted fiancé perfectly. She adjusted my pillows, asked appropriate questions when the nurses came in, and even had the nerve to call my parents to update them. Hearing her sweet voice tell my mother not to worry, that she'd take perfect care of your boy, made me physically nauseous. Or maybe that was the pain medication. When visiting hours ended, she kissed my forehead and promised to be back first thing in the morning to take me home. I smiled weakly and thanked her. As soon as the door closed behind her, I reached for my phone. First call. My parents. I asked them to come to the hospital immediately, that it was important, but that I was physically okay. They must have heard something in my voice because they didn't ask questions, just said they'd be there in 30 minutes. Second call. My best friend Eric, who thankfully lived in my building. I asked him to go to my apartment and pack up all of Rachel's things. Everything. He didn't understand, but he agreed. Third call. A locksmith. Emergency service, premium rates. Worth every penny. When my parents arrived, looking worried and confused, I told them everything. The James guy. The will. The callous discussion about my father's health. My mother gasped. My father's face turned a shade of red I'd never seen before. "She's been playing us all," I concluded. "And I need your help." What followed was a flurry of activity. My father stepped into the hallway to make calls. My mother sat by my bed, alternating between soothing me and expressing creative ways she'd like to see Rachel suffer. For a former elementary school teacher, she has a surprisingly vivid imagination. Here's what we put together that night. 1. Eric and 2 of his gym buddies packed up every single item belonging to Rachel in my apartment. Clothes, toiletries, books, electronics, everything. They loaded it all into a storage unit my father arranged for. 2. The locksmith arrived at my apartment at 11 p.m. to change all the locks. 3. My father called his attorney, yes, at 10 p.m., their golfing buddies, to ensure Rachel's name was removed from any documentation related to their estate planning. 4. My mother called Rachel's parents. This was my idea, actually. They deserved to know what kind of person their daughter was. They were horrified and embarrassed, which confirmed my suspicion that they had no idea about her scheme. 5. I texted Rachel, "Change of plans. My parents are taking me home tomorrow. Don't come to the hospital in the morning." Her reply was immediate. "Don't be silly, babe. I've already arranged to take the day off. I'll be there at 9. I didn't respond. The next morning, my parents arrived at 7:30 a.m. with a wheelchair and discharge papers already processed. The hospital staff, seeing my father's determination and my mother's "don't mess with me" smile, expedited everything. By 8:15 a.m., I was in their car, heading to their house instead of my apartment. At 9:07 a.m., Rachel called. I didn't answer. She texted. I didn't respond. By 10 a.m., she'd called 12 times and sent 23 increasingly frantic texts. "Where are you? The nurse said you were discharged already. Are you okay? Please answer me." "Your parents aren't answering either. What's going on?" "Mike, you're scaring me." That last one almost made me laugh. I wasn't scaring her. The potential loss of her meal ticket was scaring her. Around noon, Eric called to tell me Rachel was at my apartment, pounding on the door. The new locks, of course, meant her key didn't work. He watched through his peephole as she tried calling me again, then sat down in the hallway, apparently planning to wait me out. She waited there for 6 hours. 6 hours. Eventually, the building manager asked her to leave, at which point she apparently had a mini meltdown, crying about how her fiancé was missing after surgery and she was worried sick. The manager, who had been briefed by my father, amazing how persuasive my dad can be when motivated, politely but firmly escorted her out. Where did she go next? The hospital. According to a nurse friend who texted me, Rachel showed up at the recovery ward insisting there had been a mistake, that I couldn't have been discharged yet. When shown the paperwork, she demanded to know who had picked me up. Privacy policies being what they are, they couldn't tell her, and so she went to the parking lot to wait and wait and wait. It's been 3 days. 3 days. According to hospital security, yes, they're now involved, she's been spending her days in the parking lot, occasionally coming in to ask if I've been readmitted, then returning to her vigilance when told no. Meanwhile, I've been recovering at my parents' house. The comfort of knowing I'm surrounded by people who genuinely care about me has probably been as therapeutic as the surgery itself. My back actually feels better than it has in years, despite the surgical pain. Yesterday, my father's attorney sent Rachel a formal letter. It outlined exactly what we knew, including time-stamped transcripts of her conversation in the recovery room. A bit of a bluff, but an effective one. It made clear that any attempt to contact me or my family would result in a restraining order. It informed her that her belongings had been placed in a storage unit, paid for 1 month, and provided the access information. The letter concluded with a personal note from me. Rachel, by the time you read this, you'll have wasted days looking for me in all the wrong places. Just like I wasted years looking for love with all the wrong person. The difference is, I've learned my lesson. Have you? The keys to the storage unit are taped to the back of this letter. Consider them the keys to your new life, one that doesn't include me, my family, or their will. Please give my regards to James. According to the attorney, the letter was delivered to Rachel this morning, as she sat in her car in the hospital parking lot. The report from the courier said she opened it, read it, and simply put her head on the steering wheel. She hasn't tried to contact me directly since receiving the letter, though she did call my parents once. They didn't answer. I'm still processing everything. The betrayal, the calculated nature of her deception, the fact that I was days away from marrying someone who saw me as nothing more than a stepping stone to wealth. It's surreal, but in a strange way, I'm grateful. Grateful that my weird anesthesia reaction revealed her true nature before we were legally bound. Grateful that my parents and friends rallied around me without question. Grateful that, unlike Rachel, I know who's really on my side. The road to physical recovery will be long. 8 weeks of limited activity, physical therapy, the works. But compared to recovering from nearly making the biggest mistake of my life, the back surgery is a walk in the park. As for Rachel, last I heard, she finally left the hospital parking lot. The storage unit manager confirmed she came by to collect her things. She'll land on her feet, I'm sure. People like Rachel always do. Maybe James will be her next mark. Or maybe, just maybe, she'll take this opportunity to reflect on the kind of person she's become. But somehow, I doubt it. Update. Thanks for all the support and advice. For those asking for updates. Yes, I'm doing well physically. The surgery was successful, and though recovery is slow, I'm already experiencing less nerve pain than before. No, I haven't heard directly from Rachel since everything went down. Her social media has gone mysteriously quiet, though mutual friends report she's telling people I had a psychotic break after surgery and abandoned her. Classic. James, whoever he is, remains a mystery. I have no interest in tracking him down or confronting him. For all I know, he might be another victim of her manipulation. My parents are doing fine. They're more angry than hurt at this point. They've also added extra security to their estate planning, just in case Rachel wasn't working alone. For those suggesting I pursue legal action, there's really nothing to sue over. Being a gold digger isn't illegal, unfortunately. Besides, the clean break is worth more to me than any monetary compensation. To the person who asked if I'm open to dating again, ask me in a year. Right now, I'm focusing on healing, both physically and emotionally. Sometimes life hands you awful situations that turn out to be blessings in disguise. This was definitely one of those times. I dodged a bullet, even if I had to have my spine cut open to do it. In today's Reddit story, I'm pregnant, but it's not yours. My wife smirked, demanding a divorce and alimony. I just nodded and let her think she won, until the day her church received the DNA results and labeled her an adulteress. I always imagined that if my marriage ever ended, it would be a slow, painful process. Years of resentment, therapy sessions that didn't work, maybe a dramatic fight leading to a quiet, inevitable separation. But no, she ended it with a smirk. I came home from work that evening, exhausted and ready to collapse on the couch. But as soon as I walked in, I knew something was off. She was sitting on the couch, perfectly still, waiting for me. No TV on, no music playing. Just her, sitting there like she was rehearsing a script. I barely had time to put my keys down before she dropped the bomb. I'm pregnant. For a second, my brain didn't register anything but shock. We had talked about kids, but we weren't actively trying. Then she added, almost lazily, like she was discussing the weather, "But it's not yours." The room fell silent. She waited, watching for my reaction, waiting for me to break. I didn't. I didn't speak, didn't move, didn't even blink. So, she kept going. "I cheated," she shrugged. "It's been going on for a while, and honestly, I'm done pretending. I want a divorce." She said it like she was dumping an old pair of shoes, like our entire life together was just some phase she was over. Still, I said nothing. Her lips curled up in that smug, infuriating way. "Honestly, it's better this way. I've met someone else, someone I actually want a future with." There it was. She wasn't just leaving me, she was trading up. Or at least, that's what she thought. She let out a little laugh, as if trying to lighten the mood. "I know this sucks, but hey, we can do this like adults, right?" I swallowed, forcing my voice to stay even. "You're really sure about this?" Her smirk widened. 100%. Then she dropped the final insult. "Oh, and you'll still need to pay alimony." The words hit me like a brick to the chest. "Excuse me?" She waved a hand dismissively. "I sacrificed my career for this marriage. Will, I was a stay-at-home wife for years while you built your business. It's only fair." Fair. She cheated on me, got pregnant with another man's child, and was now demanding I fund her new life. I clenched my fist so tightly my nails dug into my palm. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something. Instead, I smiled. "I understand," I said softly. "But just to be sure, let's get a DNA test." Her smirk didn't waver. She actually laughed. "Oh my God, Will? Seriously? You think I'm lying? Fine. Whatever makes you sleep at night." She thought I was in denial. She thought I was pathetic. She had no idea what was coming. I walked into the courthouse with some hope left. I wasn't expecting to walk away completely free. But surely, there had to be some justice. I had proof she cheated. Proof the baby wasn't mine. Proof she was already living with another man. And yet, as I sat at the plaintiff's table, watching my soon-to-be ex-wife sit calmly across from me, it hit me. She wasn't nervous at all. If anything, she looked bored, like she already knew the outcome. The judge entered, an older man who had probably seen every kind of divorce case there was. He barely looked at me before turning to my wife's lawyer, and that's when I knew I was screwed. Her lawyer stood up first. A polished, confident guy in an expensive suit, the kind of guy who could probably argue that the sky was green and get half the jury to agree with him. "Your Honor, my client was a devoted wife for 5 years. She put her career aside to support her husband while he built his business. She managed the home, took care of daily affairs, and made countless sacrifices. Now that the marriage has ended, she is left with no income, no financial stability, and no way to rebuild her life." I wanted to scream. She wasn't left with no income. She chose not to work. She wasn't left struggling. She had another man waiting for her. But none of that mattered, because her lawyer was good, really good. We asked that the court grant her spousal support so she may transition into independent life without undue hardship. Undue hardship. She cheated, got pregnant, and left me, but somehow, she was the victim. My lawyer, Mr. Bout Randall, stood up next. He was a no-nonsense guy, but I could tell he already knew we were fighting an uphill battle. "Your Honor, let's be clear. My client is not refusing to support his ex-wife. He is, however, contesting an obligation to pay long-term alimony to a woman who is pregnant with another man's child and has already moved on." The judge raised an eyebrow. I saw a flicker of something. Mild interest? Annoyance? But then he gestured for Randall to continue. We have documented proof of her infidelity, proof that the child is not my client's, and proof that she's already cohabitating with another man. Randall turned, handing over the DNA test results, pictures, and text message logs. For the first time, my ex-wife shifted in her seat. She wasn't smirking anymore, but she still wasn't worried, and that's because her lawyer was ready. Your Honor, I'd like to remind the court that we live in a no-fault divorce state. That was it. The moment I knew we had already lost. The judge took a deep breath and sat back in his chair. Mr. Daniels, he said, looking at me for the first time. While the court acknowledges the infidelity, state law does not consider marital misconduct when determining spousal support. I swallowed hard. But, he held up a hand, what we do consider is financial need. I clenched my fists under the table. Your wife has been financially dependent on you for the duration of your marriage. She has no current employment and limited financial resources. It would be unjust to leave her without any means of support while she reestablishes herself. I almost laughed. Reestablishes herself? She was already reestablished in another man's bed. But the judge wasn't done. Given the length of the marriage and the financial disparity, I am granting her monthly spousal support. Mr. Daniels, you are ordered to pay alimony in the amount of... I barely heard the rest. I just sat there, stunned. Meanwhile, my ex-wife slowly turned to look at me, and she smirked. I'll never forget that look on her face. The way she crossed her legs, her manicured fingers tapping the table like this, was all just a minor inconvenience to her. When the ruling was finalized, we walked out of the courtroom in complete silence. I was still trying to process everything when she let out a dramatic sigh and stretched. That was exhausting. I ignored her. She wasn't done. For you, I mean, not for me. I clenched my jaw, refusing to take the bait. She pulled out her phone and, right in front of me, called her new boyfriend. Hey babe, it's done. The divorce went through. Yeah, I'm getting alimony. She giggled and glanced at me. Told you he wouldn't fight back. That was it. That was the moment I decided. She thought this was over. She had no idea what was coming. She thought she had won. She thought I would walk away defeated, broken, forced to finance her new life while she played house with her affair partner. She thought I'd be humiliated, paying monthly for the privilege of being cheated on. She thought she'd ride off into the sunset while I rotted in bitterness. She was wrong, because what she failed to understand was that revenge isn't about reacting in anger. It's about patience, it's about strategy, and I had a plan that would make her regret every single decision she made. I didn't blow up. I didn't scream at her when she smirked her way out of court, flashing her victory smile like she had just won the lottery. I didn't react when she sent casual texts reminding me that my first alimony payment was due soon. No hard feelings, right? Just the way things worked out. Hope we can be civil. Civil? I clenched my jaw so tightly I thought my teeth would crack. But I didn't reply. Because anger is predictable. And predictable men don't win wars. I needed her to think I was broken. And so I paid the first alimony check on time without complaint. And I waited. My ex-wife was more than just religious. She was devout. She wasn't just a member of her church, she was a leader. She preached about loyalty and marriage values. She hosted women's retreats about building a strong Christian household. She had convinced everyone that she was a woman of pure morality. And that was her weakness. Because while the law might not punish her for being a cheating, manipulative, gold-digging liar, her church would. I didn't make a scene. No, I did something far worse. One Sunday morning, I dropped off a sealed envelope at her church's front office, addressed to the pastor and church elders. Inside, a certified copy of the DNA test proving I wasn't the father. Screenshots of her texts admitting to the affair. Proof that she was already cohabiting with another man while demanding alimony from me. A letter written politely and respectfully stating, as a member of this congregation, I felt it was my duty to bring the truth to light. I trust the church will handle this in accordance with its values. No drama, no confrontation, just cold, hard facts. Then, I walked away and waited. Step 4. Watching her life implode. I didn't have to wait long. The next Sunday, my phone started blowing up. First, a text from an old church friend. Dude, what did you do? The whole church knows. It's bad. Then another. She just got pulled into the pastor's office. She's screaming at the elders. And then she called me. I let it ring. Then she called again and again and again. By the seventh missed call, I finally picked up. And oh, was she furious. The second I answered, she exploded. "You sick freak, you did this to me." I leaned back in my chair, sipping my coffee. "I have no idea what you're talking about. You sent them the DNA test. They know everything. My life is ruined." Her voice cracked. She was on the verge of hysteria. "They called me an adulteress, Will. They took away my church leadership. I can't even show my face at Sunday service anymore. Her perfect little religious reputation? Gone. Her good Christian woman act? Shattered. She was a pariah in the one place that mattered most to her. And it only got worse. I thought her life was already falling apart. I was wrong. Because a few days later, I got another text from a mutual friend. Dude, her new man dumped her." I blinked at my phone. Seriously, that fast? Apparently, once the truth came out and she became a social outcast, her soulmate had a sudden change of heart. He blocked her number, stopped answering texts, deleted her from social media, moved on like she never existed. She had burned every bridge for this man. And now, she had nothing. She lasted 2 weeks before she caved. Late one night, I got a text from her. "I miss you. Can we talk?" I ignored it. A few days later, "I was stupid. I made a mistake. I never meant to hurt you." I ignored that too. And then, a phone call. I answered, just to hear her pathetic, shaking voice. "Will, I don't have anywhere to go. I lost my friends, my church, my baby's father left me. I cut her off. Not my problem." She choked out a sob. I just wanted to say I'm sorry." I smirked. "Cool. Good luck with your new life." Then I hung up and blocked her. Now you might be wondering, but Will, you still have to pay her alimony. Doesn't that mean she wins? Not even close. I'm rich. Alimony is a joke to me, and I just watched her entire life crumble while mine got better. So no, I didn't lose. She lost everything. And that was worth every penny. A lot of people think public shame isn't as powerful as losing money or status. They're wrong, because when someone builds their entire identity on how people see them, on being loved, respected, admired, taking that away is worse than any financial ruin. And my ex-wife? She wasn't just a casual churchgoer. Her reputation in the church was her life. And now, she was officially a fallen woman. The church elders, the same men who once praised her for being a devoted wife and a pillar of the community, held an emergency meeting about her moral failings. They didn't just scold her. They destroyed her. And the worst part? The whispers. Because while the church had an official punishment, the social punishment was even more brutal. The first Sunday after the scandal broke, she showed up to church like nothing happened. Big mistake. People refused to sit next to her. Conversations stopped when she walked by. No one greeted her. Her best friends, the ones she used to gossip with, laugh with, host brunches with, they turned their backs on her. She was officially a pariah. And if that wasn't bad enough, her parents were humiliated. Her family was deeply religious. Her father was a respected elder in the church, and her mother was a women's ministry leader. Now, her father refused to even look at her during service. Her mother wouldn't return her calls. Her younger siblings were ashamed to be seen with her. Her entire family name was tarnished, and she had no one to blame but herself. If she thought she could turn to her new man for comfort, she was in for a rude awakening. The moment her reputation tanked, he ghosted her. She tried to reach out, he ignored her texts. She showed up at his place, he refused to answer the door. Eventually, she sent a mutual friend to ask why he was avoiding her. His response? "I didn't sign up for all this drama. She's on her own." Just like that, he was gone. The man she threw our marriage away for? He dropped her the moment things got inconvenient. Because she wasn't just involved in church, she worked at a private Christian school. And guess what? Word got out. Parents complained. Administration held a meeting. And 2 weeks later, she was let go. Officially, they cited budget cuts. But we both knew the truth. No one wanted a known adulteress teaching their children about faith. My ex-wife had a full-blown breakdown after service. Someone had whispered, "adulteress," as she walked past, and she snapped, started screaming at people in the church parking lot, told them they were all hypocrites, started crying, then stormed off in her car. The next week she called me. For the first time in months, her voice didn't have that smug tone. She sounded hollow. Will, I don't have anywhere to go. I said nothing. My parents barely speak to me. My church has abandoned me. I lost my job. And she sniffled, then whispered, he left me too. There it was, the realization that she had gambled everything and lost, the final consequence of her own choices. I stayed silent. Then she broke down completely, sharing all the things that happened to her that I just mentioned. I was stupid. I should have never done this to you. I finally cut her off. I don't care. Silence. Then a quiet, broken whisper. Are you happy now? I took a deep breath. And then I smiled. Yes. Then I hung up and blocked her. A lot of people asked me, but you still have to pay alimony. Doesn't that mean she wins? Not even close. I'm rich. The alimony barely dents my finances. She's completely alone. She's a social outcast. She has no family, no church, no job, and no future. She thought she won, but in the end, she lost everything. I only said yes because no one better has asked yet. My fiancée told her best friend, I can always divorce him if someone better comes along. My cousin was getting her hair done in the same salon and heard everything. She sent me the recording. I didn't say a word, just waited until she got home, walked over, and took the ring off her finger. She froze. 2 days later, she was at my door in her wedding dress, begging me to talk. I've never considered myself particularly lucky in relationships. Average looks, decent career as an architect, nothing that would make heads turn. When Natalie agreed to date me 3 years ago, I thought I'd beaten the odds. When she accepted my proposal 6 months ago, I was convinced I'd won the lottery. Turns out, I was just a placeholder. The revelation came on a Thursday. I was reviewing blueprints for a commercial project when my phone buzzed with a message from my cousin Emma. We're close, grew up together, shared a dorm in college, still meet for coffee most weekends. Call me ASAP. It's about Natalie. I stepped out of the office and called immediately, stomach already tightening with dread. I'm sending you something, Emma said without preamble. I'm sorry, but you need to hear this. The audio file arrived seconds later. Emma explained she'd been getting highlights at Bellamy's salon when Natalie and her best friend Vanessa walked in, taking the stations directly behind her. They couldn't see Emma behind the partition, and the dryers running nearby created enough background noise that they spoke freely. The recording quality wasn't perfect, but the voices were unmistakable. So how's wedding planning going? You seem so calm about everything. Why stress? It's not like it's necessarily permanent. What's that supposed to mean? You just dropped 20 grand on a venue deposit. I only said yes because no one better has asked yet. I can always divorce him if someone better comes along. Natalie, that's cold even for you. Oh please, like you haven't thought the same thing. Look, Ryan's fine. Stable job, owns his place, decent enough in bed. But he's not exactly what I pictured ending up with, you know? He's just safe. Does he have any idea? God, no. He thinks I hung the moon. It's sweet, really, but sometimes I feel like I'm just settling. What about that guy from your office, the one you mentioned? Chris, nothing's happened yet, but there's definitely something there. He just made partner too. So why go through with the wedding? Because birds in hand, right? If things develop with Chris, I'll figure it out. If not, Ryan's a decent backup plan. Either way, I'm covered. The recording continued for another minute, their conversation shifting to wedding dress alterations, as if they hadn't just discussed the disposability of my place in Natalie's life. I listened to it 3 times, then sat in my car for 20 minutes, staring at nothing. The calm that settled over me wasn't what I expected. No rage, no urge to scream or break things, just clarity. Cold and absolute. I returned to my office, finished my workday with mechanical precision, then drove home to the apartment Natalie and I had shared for the past year. Our wedding was 8 weeks away. Invitations sent, venue booked, honeymoon flights purchased, a life planned. All based on a lie. I didn't confront her that night, didn't demand explanations or call her names. Just acted normal, asked about her day, made dinner, watched a movie, all while mentally cataloging everything I needed to handle. The next morning, I took a personal day while Natalie went to work. Then I methodically began dismantling our future. First, I called the venue and explained the situation. The manager was surprisingly sympathetic, Apparently, I wasn't the first groom to cancel after discovering bride-to-be wasn't who she claimed. She agreed to refund half the deposit given the circumstances. Next, I contacted our honeymoon resort and canceled the reservation. Called my groomsmen. Emailed immediate family. Each conversation brief, factual, devoid of drama. The wedding's off. I'll explain later. Please respect my privacy for now. By afternoon, I'd moved all my essential documents and irreplaceable items to a storage unit. By evening, I'd secured a short-term rental starting the following week. Everything executed with the same focused efficiency I bring to my architectural projects. When Natalie came home that evening, nothing appeared unusual. I'd made her favorite pasta, opened a bottle of wine. She chatted about work drama, mentioned alterations for her wedding dress, complained about the seating chart. After dinner, as we sat on the couch with our wine, I finally spoke the first honest words of the evening. "Let me see your ring for a minute." She looked confused but extended her hand. The 2-carat diamonds sparkled under the living room light, 3 months of my salary on her finger. I took her hand gently, slid the ring off, and placed it in my pocket. "What are you doing?" she asked, confusion turning to alarm. I played the recording. The color drained from her face as her own voice filled the room. Her expression cycled through shock, embarrassment, and finally calculation as she formulated her defense. When the recording ended, I simply said, "The wedding's canceled. I've handled the venue, the honeymoon, and notified my side of the guest list. I'll be moving out next week. You can stay until the lease ends in 3 months." "Ryan, I didn't mean. I'm not interested in explanations, Natalie. Your words were perfectly clear. It was just girl talk. Everyone says stupid things to their friends." I stayed silent, watching her scramble for excuses. "Who recorded that? That's illegal. You can't just spy on private conversations. Emma was getting her hair done. You didn't notice her. One-party consent is legal in this state." Natalie's tactics shifted rapidly from denial to anger to tears. A manipulative cycle I recognized from smaller conflicts throughout our relationship. When nothing worked, she finally resorted to the truth. "Fine, maybe I do have doubts. That's normal. Everyone has doubts before a wedding." "Doubts are normal. Seeing me as a placeholder until something better comes along isn't." I stood up, ending the conversation. "I have an early meeting tomorrow. Good night." She slept at Vanessa's that night. I changed the passcode on my phone and enabled 2-factor authentication on all accounts. Natalie had always known my passwords, trust that now seemed dangerously naive. The next day passed without contact. I assumed she was strategizing, gathering allies, preparing her counteroffensive. I was right. On day 2, the barrage began. First came the phone calls, from Natalie, from her parents, from mutual friends who'd only heard her version. I let everything go to voicemail, responding only to texts with brief, factual messages. "Yes, the wedding is canceled. No, this isn't open for discussion. I'll arrange to collect my things next weekend." Her mother called 7 times, leaving increasingly hostile messages about commitment and working through problems and the cost of cancellations. I saved each one without responding. That evening, as I was finishing dinner in my quiet apartment, the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Natalie, wearing her wedding dress, makeup streaked with tears, clutching a small bouquet of what appeared to be hastily gathered flowers from the grocery store across the street. It was both pathetic and calculated, the ultimate visual guilt trip. If I opened the door, neighbors would see a crying bride pleading with her cold-hearted fiancé. Maximum emotional leverage. I didn't open the door. She rang again, knocked, called my phone repeatedly. Eventually, she sat down in the hallway, wedding dress pooling around her, and began talking loudly enough for me to hear through the door. "Ryan, please. I know you're in there. I made a terrible mistake. I didn't mean any of it. I love you. Please just talk to me." I recorded her performance from inside, documenting the manipulation for my own sanity. After 30 minutes, a neighbor finally emerged and asked her to leave. I heard her explain through theatrical sobs that her fiancé was having a breakdown and refusing to talk about their problems. Eventually, she left. The emotional ambush had failed. Later that night, I emailed her, "Don't come to the apartment unannounced again. I'll be collecting my things on Saturday at 10 a.m. If you prefer not to be present, let me know and I'll arrange for someone else to be there." Her reply came within minutes. You're really throwing away 3 years over one stupid conversation? This isn't like you, Ryan. You've always been understanding. Please, can we just talk in person? No games, no dress, just talking. I responded with the only truth that mattered. The person I was understanding toward doesn't exist. She was a projection of who I thought you were. The real you sees me as a backup plan. I deserve better than that. Saturday came. I arrived with 3 friends to help move my furniture and remaining belongings. Natalie wasn't there. Just a note on the counter and the key to my car, which she occasionally used. The note read simply, I never meant to hurt you. When you calm down, call me. I threw it away and continued packing. 2 weeks later, I was settled in my new place. Changed my phone number, kept my social media deactivated, focused on work. Natalie's attempts to contact me continued through increasingly creative channels. Emails to my work account, messages through mutual friends, even a letter to my parents' house. I maintained complete silence, not out of spite, but self-preservation. There was nothing left to say. A month after the recording, Emma spotted Natalie having lunch with Chris from her office, her hand on his arm, laughing at something he said. I felt nothing but relief that my instinct had been correct. 6 months later, I ran into Vanessa at a local coffee shop. She looked uncomfortable but approached anyway. I just wanted to say I'm sorry, she said. What Natalie did was wrong. I should have called her out harder that day. I nodded. Thank you for that. Are you okay now? She asked cautiously. I considered the question. Was I okay? The pain had dulled. The embarrassment of canceling a wedding had faded. The trust issues remained, but I was working on them. I'm getting there, I answered honestly. As I was leaving, Vanessa called after me. For what it's worth, she regrets it. Not just getting caught, the actual attitude. She knows she messed up something real. I nodded again but didn't respond. Her regret wasn't my responsibility. That night, I looked at the engagement ring sitting in my safe. I'd had options. Return it for a partial refund, sell it online, keep it as a reminder. Instead, I decided to have it reset into cufflinks. Not to wear regularly, but to keep as a reminder that sometimes the most valuable architectural skill is knowing when to demolish rather than renovate. Some structures can't be saved. Some foundations are fatally flawed from the beginning. And sometimes, walking away isn't just an option, it's the only blueprint that makes sense. Update 8 months later. Since many asked for an update, here's where things stand. I've been seeing someone new for about 3 months, taking it slow, being intentionally transparent about expectations. She's actually a contractor I met through work. Someone who builds things for a living, which feels symbolically right. Natalie and Chris made their relationship official about 2 months after our split. According to mutual friends, it lasted roughly 5 months before imploding spectacularly when she discovered he was seeing 2 other women simultaneously. The irony isn't lost on me. She tried reaching out again after their breakup, a long email about perspective and growth and understanding what she lost. I read it, acknowledged it mentally, but maintained my silence. Some doors should remain closed. The financial aftermath was surprisingly manageable. The venue kept half the deposit but refunded the rest due to the circumstances. The honeymoon was partially refunded as credit for future travel, which I used for a solo trip to Japan, something Natalie had always vetoed as too foreign for her taste. Several friends initially sided with Natalie, believing I was overreacting to just venting. Most came around after hearing the actual recording. Those who didn't are no longer in my life, which feels like additional clutter cleared away. Emma remains my hero in all this. When Natalie confronted her about the recording, Emma simply said, "You shouldn't say things you wouldn't want repeated." Their mutual friends eventually chose sides, with most recognizing Natalie's behavior for what it was. The most unexpected outcome has been professional. The focus and discipline I channeled into dismantling my personal life translated into my work, leading to a significant promotion. Turns out, architectural precision is valuable in many contexts. For those asking if I regret not giving her a second chance, not for a moment. The wedding dress stunt revealed the performative nature of her remorse. Real regret doesn't need an audience or theatrical props. Some commenters suggested I was cold, calculating in my response. Perhaps. But emotional reactions would have given her exactly what she needed. Drama she could reframe, tears she could manipulate, anger she could point to as the real problem. Silent efficiency was the only language that couldn't be mistranslated. The cufflinks, they're finished, sitting in a drawer. I haven't worn them yet. Maybe someday they'll just be cufflinks, not symbols of a lesson learned the hard way. Until then, I'm building something new, with better materials and a much stronger foundation. Edit. Many asked about legal implications of the recording. In my state, one-party consent is sufficient for audio recording in public places. A salon qualifies as public, and Emma was party to the conversation by virtue of being within earshot. I consulted with an attorney before making any decisions based on the recording. After watching TikToks about being a high-value woman, she told me I should be paying her a monthly girlfriend allowance. I laughed, said nothing. The next morning, I took my name off the lease, canceled the utilities, and left without a word. 3 days later, she was outside my old apartment, banging on the door, begging me to let her in. Before we start, I just want to say thank you for being here. It means the world. But take a look at this. Only 8% of people watching are subscribed. If you enjoy these stories and want to support more of them, just one click makes a huge difference. So I, 31M, moved in with my girlfriend Amber, 28F, about 8 months ago. We'd been dating for a year before that, and everything seemed great. We met through a mutual friend's barbecue, hit it off, and things progressed pretty naturally from there. Some background. I work as a commercial plumber. Started as an apprentice at 19, worked my way up, and now run my own crew for a decent-sized company in the city. I'm not rich by any means, but I make good money and have been smart with it. No debt except my truck payment, solid 401k, and some investments I started young thanks to my grandpa drilling financial sense into me. Amber works as a marketing coordinator for a local clothing boutique chain. It's not high-paying, but she seemed to enjoy it and was always talking about working her way up to manager. When we decided to move in together, we found a nice 2-bedroom apartment that was a step up from both our previous places. The rent was manageable if we split it, plus utilities and groceries. That was the agreement. Split everything down the middle. And for the first 6 months, that's exactly what we did. We'd Venmo each other for bills, take turns grocery shopping, and everything was fair. I even did most of the cooking, since I'm better at it and get home earlier most days. About 2 months ago, I started noticing changes in Amber. She was constantly on her phone watching these TikTok and Instagram videos about leveling up and being a high-value woman. At first, I didn't think much of it. People get into different social media trends all the time, right? But then she started making comments. Little things at first. Jenny's boyfriend pays all their rent so she can save for designer bags. Did you know Mike gives Sarah a monthly spending allowance? She doesn't even have to work. All these finance guys on TikTok say a real man provides completely for his woman. I mostly just nodded along or changed the subject. Wasn't worth arguing over some random internet crap. Or so I thought. Then last week, Amber sat me down for what she called a relationship upgrade discussion. I still remember exactly how it went down. We were having dinner, chicken stir-fry I'd made after working a 10-hour day fixing burst pipes at an office building downtown. So, I've been thinking about our financial arrangement, she started, putting her fork down. And I don't think it's really working for me anymore. I figured maybe she was struggling with her portion of the rent or something. Everything okay with work? We can adjust the split if things are tight right now. She laughed like I'd said something ridiculous. No, that's not it. I've been doing a lot of research and self-improvement lately, learning about what it means to be a high-value woman. I took a drink of water, already getting a bad feeling about where this was headed. The thing is, she continued, in a truly balanced relationship, men and women bring different things to the table. I bring beauty, supportiveness, and feminine energy. You're supposed to bring resources and provision. I put my fork down. What exactly are you saying here, Amber? I'm saying that splitting bills 50-50 is actually a raw deal for women. I cook. I do most of the cooking, I interrupted. She waved this off. I maintain our social calendar. I make this place a home. I put effort into my appearance. That's actual work that I'm not being compensated for. Compensated? We're in a relationship, not an employment contract. That's such a typical response, she sighed, like she was dealing with a child. Look, I've decided that I shouldn't be paying rent or utilities anymore. That should all be on you. I stared at her, thinking this had to be some kind of weird joke. You can't be serious. I'm absolutely serious. And actually, she pulled out her phone and showed me a calculator app with some numbers punched in. I think you should be paying me a girlfriend allowance of $2,000 a month. I nearly choked. A what now? A girlfriend allowance. All the high-value relationship coaches recommend it. It acknowledges the uncompensated labor women do in relationships and allows me to invest in myself to be an even better partner to you. I looked at her, really looked at her, trying to see if this was the same woman I'd fallen for a year and a half ago. The woman who'd insisted on paying for her own meal on our first date, because that's what equals do. Let me get this straight, I said slowly. You want me to pay all of our rent, all of our utilities, and then give you $2,000 a month on top of that? For what, exactly? She rolled her eyes. For being your girlfriend, obviously. For emotional support and creating a beautiful environment. For being loyal. Is that something you think you should be paid for? Being loyal? She threw her hands up. You're not listening. This is how modern relationships work now. All the coaches say that 50-50 is for roommates, not romantic partners. If you really valued me, you'd understand that. I laughed. I couldn't help it. It just came out. Her face darkened. What's so funny? Nothing. Absolutely nothing is funny about this conversation. I got up and cleared my plate, suddenly not hungry anymore. For the rest of the night, I was quiet. Amber seemed to take this as me processing her proposal and kept sending me TikTok links to videos featuring women explaining why they deserve to be financially supported while bringing nothing tangible to the relationship. I didn't argue, didn't engage, just nodded and said I needed to think about it. That night, I lay awake for hours, thinking about our entire relationship. Had I missed signs of this entitlement all along? Or was this genuinely new behavior triggered by whatever social media rabbit hole she'd fallen down? Either way, I knew I couldn't continue with someone who fundamentally viewed our relationship as a transaction where I was expected to pay for her presence in my life. The next morning, I got up early while Amber was still asleep. Called into work and told my boss I needed a personal day, first one I'd taken in over a year. He didn't even question it. Then I made some calls. First, to the apartment management office, where I explained I needed to remove myself from the lease. Since we were month to month at this point, our original lease had converted after 6 months. They said it would be no problem as long as Amber stayed on. They emailed me the paperwork, which I printed at the UPS store down the street, signed and returned in person. Next, I called the utility companies. Electric, gas, internet, all were in my name. I arranged for service to end the following day, giving Amber a small buffer. Each one asked if I wanted to transfer service to another name. I declined. Then I started packing. I didn't take anything we'd bought together, just my personal belongings, clothes, tools, and a few kitchen items that were specifically mine from before we moved in. Packed it all in my truck in 3 quick trips while Amber slept in. She never got up before 9 on workdays. Left my key on the counter, along with a short note. Amber, I've thought about your proposal and decided we want different things from a relationship. I've removed myself from the lease and canceled the utilities effective tomorrow. They're all in my name, so you'll need to set up new accounts. The rent is paid through the end of this month. Good luck with finding someone who meets your new standards. Kyle. By 8:30 a.m., I was pulling into my buddy Mark's driveway. He's divorced and has a spare room he'd been trying to rent out anyway. When I explained the situation, he just shook his head and helped me carry my stuff inside. Girlfriend allowance? That's a new one, he said as we cracked open beers that night, even though it was a Tuesday. Yeah, apparently I'm supposed to pay her for the privilege of her time, I replied, like some kind of subscription service. I turned off my phone that night, knowing Amber would eventually wake up, find my note, and blow up my notifications. I wasn't interested in the drama. The next day at work, I used my business phone to call the apartment building's maintenance guy. who I'd gotten to know from fixing a plumbing issue in the building a few months back. Asked him to let me know if anything crazy happened at the apartment. "Funny you should ask," he said. "Your girlfriend, or ex, I guess, had a meltdown in the office this morning, screaming about how they can't let you take your name off the lease without her permission. Manager had to show her the paperwork and remind her it's a month-to-month now." I thanked him for the info and got back to work. That evening, I turned my personal phone back on to a predictable avalanche of texts, calls, and voicemails from Amber. They followed the classic stages. First, confusion. "Where are you? What is this note supposed to mean?" Then anger. "You can't just leave like this. The utilities are in your name. This is so immature." Followed by threats. "I'm calling your boss. I'm calling your mom. This is illegal." Then bargaining. "Okay, we can compromise on the allowance. Maybe just pay the rent and I'll handle utilities." And finally, panic. "Kyle, please. The power's out. The internet is off. I have an important Zoom meeting tomorrow. You can't do this to me." I didn't respond to any of them. On day 3, Mark texted me at work. "Dude, your ex is at your old apartment making a scene. Neighbor just called me. Might want to steer clear of the area." I forgot to mention, Mark actually lived in the same apartment complex, just 2 buildings over. That's how we became friends in the first place, running into each other at the community grill area. After I moved in with him, he gave his number to a couple of neighbors we were friendly with, in case they needed to reach me while I was getting settled. Turns out, Amber had come home to find the electricity and gas shut off. She'd apparently spent the night at a friend's place, then returned, expecting services to be magically restored. When they weren't, she started pounding on doors, including what used to be our door, as if I was somehow still inside, and just refusing to answer. The maintenance guy filled me in later. The building manager had to explain to her that she needed to set up new accounts in her own name, which would require deposits since she had no utility history. And she'd need to provide proof of income, showing she could afford the apartment by herself or find a new roommate. She kept saying it was your responsibility to pay for everything, he told me, clearly amused by the whole situation. Manager asked her if she had that in writing, like some kind of contract. She went ballistic. About a week after I left, Amber's best friend Zoe reached out to me. We'd always gotten along well, and she seemed genuinely concerned. "Kyle, she's a mess," Zoe said when I agreed to meet her for coffee. She had to take days off work to deal with getting the utilities turned back on. Had to borrow money from her parents for the deposits. They're furious with her. "That sounds difficult," I replied, not offering anything more. Zoe studied me for a moment. For what it's worth, I told her she was being ridiculous with that allowance stuff. We all did. She just got so caught up in those stupid videos. "Doesn't matter now," I said. "If it wasn't this, it would have been something else eventually." "Maybe," Zoe conceded. "She asked me to find out if you'd reconsider. Said she's learned her lesson." I shook my head. The lesson she learned is that actions have consequences, not that her expectations were wrong. There's a difference. Zoe nodded slowly. "That's actually really insightful. I'm sorry things ended this way. You were good for her." "Apparently not $2,000 a month good," I joked. We finished our coffee, and I haven't heard directly from Amber since. Through mutual friends, I learned she couldn't afford the apartment on her own and had to break the lease, losing the security deposit. She moved back in with her parents in the suburbs, adding an hour commute to her workday. As for me, I'm still at Mark's place but looking for my own apartment. Work is going well, just got promoted to project supervisor, which means more money and more responsibility. I'm dating casually but nothing serious, taking my time. Looking back, I don't regret how I handled things. Was it a bit cold to leave while she was sleeping? Maybe. But after being told my role in our relationship was essentially to be an ATM, I didn't feel like I owed her a tearful goodbye. Sometimes the clearest messages don't need words at all, just actions. Oh, and I recently saw Amber posted a new TikTok video that's making the rounds in our social circle. It's about signs your man isn't high value and red flags you shouldn't ignore. Apparently, not wanting to financially support your girlfriend is at the top of the list. Guess I'm guilty as charged, and completely at peace with it. Her mom called me crying this morning, asking why her daughter was being evicted from the apartment I secretly owned. I told her the truth. After 6 years together, her daughter said she wasn't sure about marrying me. Then joked in front of her friends that if I were richer, she'd marry me. So I showed her exactly how rich I actually was by ending her lease. But here's what she didn't know about the apartment she's being evicted from. I own it. The whole building, 8 units. Bought it 3 years ago. She's been paying rent to me this entire time without knowing it. And that's just the beginning of what I've been hiding. This started 6 years ago when I met Amanda in college. She was studying to be a teacher, seemed down to earth, valued experiences over things. We connected on real levels. I thought she was different, but I had a secret. My grandfather built a manufacturing empire, sold it for 9 figures in the 90s, set up trust funds for his grandchildren. When I turned 25, I got access to mine, millions, enough to buy anything, go anywhere, never work a day in my life. But I kept my job as a project manager, making $70,000 a year and never told anyone. Why? Because my older brother got married at 26. His wife found out about his trust fund after the wedding. Everything changed overnight. She went from loving to demanding. Wanted a bigger house, luxury cars, designer everything. They divorced 2 years later. She got a settlement. He got a lesson. I decided right then I'd hide my wealth from everyone. Live modestly, work a regular job, and test anyone I got serious with. Make sure they loved me for me, not for what I could provide. I'd been dating Amanda for 3 years by this point. She'd passed the first phase. Never asked about money, never seemed greedy, seemed genuinely into me. But I needed a bigger test. When her lease was ending, I saw my opportunity. There was a small apartment building for sale near downtown. 8 units. Good bones but needing updates. The price was reasonable. I bought it, paid cash through an LLC called Glenrock Holdings, hired a property management company to keep me anonymous. I told Amanda I knew someone with a unit available below market rate. We could move in together. She was thrilled. We signed a lease as co-tenants, both our names on it. Each paid $1,500 a month. She thought we were just regular renters. She had no idea I owned the building, that her rent money was going into my business account. For 3 years it worked perfectly. We lived together like a normal couple. Split bills, split groceries. She never suspected anything. Then last year I proposed. She said yes. We set a wedding date for this coming June. But 6 months ago things started changing. She began making comments about money, about our future, about how we'd struggle, how we'd never afford a house or nice vacations, or the comfortable life her friends had. I'd reassure her we'd be fine. She'd agree in the moment, then make another comment later. About someone's engagement ring, someone's honeymoon, someone's new car. Always comparing, always noticing what others had that we didn't. 3 months ago she said she wanted to postpone the wedding. Needed to think about things. About our future, about whether we were ready. 2 months ago she made it official. Push the date back, maybe wait another year. She wasn't sure she was ready to marry me because she had concerns about our financial future. I knew what was happening. She was evaluating me based on money and finding me insufficient. After 6 years together, after saying yes to marriage, she was having doubts because she thought I didn't make enough. The part that killed me? I could give her everything she wanted and more. But she didn't know that, and that was the entire point of the test. She was failing. Last weekend was her birthday. She wanted friends over at our apartment. I bought normal supplies, cake, drinks, decorations. 5 friends showed up. Sarah, Jessica, Megan, Rachel, and Nicole. They were drinking, laughing, having fun. The party was going well, and I was being the good host, making sure everyone had what they needed. Around 9, my boss called with a quick work question. I told Amanda I'd be right back and went to the bedroom to take it. The call took maybe 10 minutes. When I finished, I stood up and was about to head back out when I heard my name from the living room. I paused. Something about the tone made me stop in the hallway. Then I heard laughter. I should have walked back in. Instead, I stayed there, just outside the doorway, and listened. Amanda was talking about the wedding. One of her friends asked when it was happening. Amanda laughed and said they'd postponed it, that she needed to think about whether she really wanted to marry someone who's going to struggle financially forever. I stood frozen in that hallway. Sarah asked what she meant. Amanda said, "I'm a great guy, but I make $70,000 a year. That's not enough to build a real life on, not in this city." Megan said, "That's not bad money." Amanda countered that it's fine money, not good money. There's a difference. Rachel asked if money was really that important. Amanda went quiet for a second before answering. "Honestly, yes. If he made more, I'd marry him tomorrow. If he were a doctor or a lawyer. But he's just a regular guy with a regular job, and I don't know if that's enough for me." Her friends made sympathetic noises. Jessica said she needs to figure out what she wants. Amanda said she knows what she wants. Security, not worrying about money, being able to afford nice things without stress. And I can't give her that. Nicole said maybe she should wait then. Amanda agreed. She's waiting to see if maybe I get a better job or something. But if I don't, she trailed off before finishing. If he were richer, I'd marry him in a heartbeat. But he's not, so here we are. They all laughed. Rachel asked if she'd told me this. Amanda said, "God, no, I'd be devastated. I think we're postponing because she needs time." Which she does. Time to figure out if she can settle for this. Settle. That's the word she used. I stood in that hallway feeling something inside me go completely cold. 6 years of hiding who I was to find someone who'd love me anyway, and I'd found someone who didn't. Someone who thought I wasn't enough, who was waiting for me to magically make more money. Someone who'd marry me if I were richer, but was considering leaving because I wasn't. I took a breath, put on a smile, and walked back into the living room, asked who needs drinks, got refills, played the perfect host, laughed at jokes. Inside, I was done. Completely finished. The party ended around 11. Amanda went to bed drunk and happy. I stayed up making decisions. I pulled out my phone and called my brother, told him everything I'd heard. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he asked what I was going to do. "I'm going to end it. All of it. The relationship and the lease." "You're evicting her?" "Yes, that's cold. She said she'd marry me if I were richer. That she's settling. That I'm not enough." He changed his tune immediately. "Okay, yeah, do what you need to do." Sunday, I called my property management company, told them I wanted to terminate the lease for Unit 4. "I'm the owner and I'm moving out. I want the other tenant removed." They hesitated but confirmed that if I'm reclaiming the unit, it's within my rights. They'd send a 30-day notice to Amanda. Monday was normal. We both worked, had dinner, watched TV. She noticed nothing. Tuesday morning, she left for work early. I was home when the courier arrived around 10 with the official eviction notice. Addressed to Amanda Chen. I signed for it as the co-tenant, opened it, read it. Formal 30-day notice. Owner reclaiming property. All legal. Perfect. I put it on the kitchen counter and went back to work. Amanda came home around 4. I heard her in the kitchen, then heard her exclaim in shock. I came out. She was holding the notice, pale as death. She asked if I'd seen it, just now. "What is it?" "She's being evicted. They're terminating her lease. 30 days to move out." I asked why. "It just says owner wants the property back." She looked panicked. "This is insane. She's been a perfect tenant. Why would they do this?" She grabbed her phone and called the property management company. I listened to her ask why, what she did wrong, whether she can appeal. They must have been polite but firm. "It's the owner's decision, nothing personal, just reclaiming the property." She kept pushing and got nowhere. Finally hung up with tears in her eyes. They won't tell her anything, just that the owner wants the unit and she has to leave. She asked what she's supposed to do, where she's supposed to go. Then she looked at me carefully. "What about you? Did you get a notice?" "No. Why not?" "You're on the lease too?" I pulled out my phone and pretended to check. Nothing. She said, "That's weird." "Why just her?" She spent the evening calling friends about available apartments. Everything was expensive, way more than she could afford alone. She was stressed, crying, panicking. I acted concerned. She said, "Unless I can convince the owner to let her stay, there's nothing anyone can do." I promised to try. She hugged me and said, "At least she has me." I felt nothing. Wednesday morning, I told her we needed to talk. She looked terrified. "I need to be honest about something. I'm not getting an eviction notice because I'm the owner. I'm Glenrock Holdings. I own this building. I've owned it for 3 years. She stared at me in complete shock. "You're my landlord?" "Yes." "Why didn't you tell me?" Because I wanted to see who you really were without knowing about my money. What money? I explained about my trust fund, about getting access at 25, about being wealthy, very wealthy. I make $70,000 because I like working but I don't need to. I have more money than we'd spend in 3 lifetimes. She sat down heavily, looking like she might pass out. You're rich? How rich? Rich enough to buy apartment buildings. Rich enough that I've been sitting on millions while watching you stress about our budget for 3 years. Rich enough to give you everything you said you wanted. She's staring at me and I can see her brain working, calculating. How much? How long? What it all means. Then it hits her. The apartment, the rent, the 3 years. All of it was a test, and she just realized she failed. Then she asked why I'm telling her now. Because I heard what you said at your party. She went white. I was in the hallway. Heard you tell your friends you'd marry me if I were richer, that you're settling for me, that I'm not enough because I only make $70,000, that you're waiting to see if I get a better job. She started crying, said she was drunk and didn't mean it. Drunk words are sober thoughts. You meant every word, you were being honest for once, and you showed me exactly what matters to you. Money, not me. She grabbed my hands desperately. That's not true. I love you. If you loved me, you wouldn't care about the money. But you do. A lot. You postponed our wedding because of it. She admitted she was scared of struggling, of not having enough. We have plenty. We've always had plenty. You just didn't know it. Then she turned it on me. So you've been lying to me for 6 years? Yes, because my brother's ex-wife married him for money. I learned from that. Decided to hide my wealth and see who'd love me without it. You failed that test completely. She stood up angry. You tested me? Like an experiment? Yes, and you showed me you're exactly the kind of person I was trying to avoid. Someone who'd marry me if I were richer, but isn't sure when I'm not. She was crying hard. So you're evicting me, breaking up with me, just like that? Yes, because I made one drunk comment? Because you showed me your true priorities. This is cruel. You know what's cruel? Telling your friends you're settling for someone. She asked where she's supposed to go. That's not my concern. The lease is terminated. You have 30 days. She said she can't afford anything alone. Then move out of the city. Her job is here. Figure it out. You're really doing this? I am. Now you know I'm more than enough. But it's too late. I packed my things while she begged me to reconsider. I loaded my car and left. She stood there crying. I drove to my brother's house and blocked her number. Next morning her mom called crying. Said Amanda called her hysterical, barely making sense. Something about being evicted, about me breaking up with her, about not knowing what to do. Her mom's voice was shaking. She said she doesn't understand what happened. Amanda's always been a good tenant. We were happy. We were getting married. What changed? What did her daughter do wrong? I took a breath. Let me tell you what actually happened. I gave her the short version. Amanda said she'd marry me if I were richer. I heard it. Turns out I am rich. I own the building. I'm ending everything. She's got 30 days. Her mom went quiet before asking if it's true Amanda said that. Yes, word for word. She sighed and said she didn't raise her to be like that. Then Amanda is desperate, asking for help, asking for money. That's between you and her. Can you help her? Please? No. She made her choice. This seems extreme. So is telling your friends you'd marry someone if they had more money. She went quiet, said she understands, and hung up. Week 2, her friend Sarah called. Amanda is falling apart, can't find anywhere affordable. She's gonna have to move back home and lose her teaching job. That's all you have to say? What do you want me to say? You could help her. You're rich. Why would I do that? Because you loved her. Past tense. She made it clear I wasn't enough. Now she knows I'm enough and more. Too late. You're being cruel. She told her friends she was settling for me. You were there, Sarah. You laughed. She went quiet. Yeah, I heard everything. All of you laughing about how I wasn't good enough. You were drunk, you were honest. Now she deals with the consequences. Day 30 came. Amanda moved out. I heard she went back to her parents' house 2 hours away, had to quit her job, was looking for work near her hometown. I felt nothing. 3 weeks later, her dad called. His voice was calm, measured. Said he'd heard what happened from Amanda and from his wife. But he wanted to hear my version directly before making any judgments. That impressed me. So I told him everything. About my grandfather's business, about the trust fund I got at 25, about my brother's divorce and what it taught me. About deciding to hide my wealth and test anyone I got serious with. I told him about buying the building 3 years ago, about Amanda never knowing, about her comments on money getting worse, about postponing the wedding, about what she said at her birthday party when she thought I couldn't hear. He listened to all of it without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. Then he spoke. "You own the building?" "Yes." "She never knew?" "Correct. Why hide it?" I explained about my brother, about wanting someone genuine. "And she failed?" "Spectacularly." He sighed. "I understand. I don't blame you. I'm disappointed in my daughter. I thought she was better than that. Is there any chance?" "None. She's devastated. Says she loves you. She loves what I turned out to be, not what I was. There's a difference." He was quiet. "I can't argue with that. I'm sorry it ended this way." "Me too." He hung up. 6 months later I was doing well. Bought a house in a better neighborhood, settled in, started rebuilding my life. No drama, no stress, just peace. My brother asked if I was going to start dating again. I said eventually. No rush. I'd spent 6 years in the wrong relationship. Taking time to figure out what I actually wanted seemed smart. But a couple months later, I met someone at a work conference. Physical therapist, smart, funny, had her own career and money. We took it slow. A few months in, we were having dinner at her apartment. She was making pasta, talking about her work. Mentioned one of her patients, an older woman with great insurance. Then she laughed and said, unlike her insurance, which barely covers anything, between that and student loans, she's going to be paying off debt until she's 40. I asked how much. About $80,000 from physical therapy school. Worth it though. She loves what she does. She asked if I had student loans. No, scholarships and family help. Lucky, she said, and went back to stirring the sauce. Didn't ask what kind of family help, didn't calculate what that might mean, just moved on. That moment told me something important. She wasn't fishing for information about money, she was just having a normal conversation. It felt completely different from Amanda. A year after everything, I heard Amanda got engaged. I felt nothing. My girlfriend asked how I felt about it. Nothing. Happy for her. She found someone. Good for her. You're very calm about your ex getting married. It's been over a long time. I moved on. She moved on. That's how it works. 2 years later, I proposed to my girlfriend. No games, no tests this time, just an honest proposal because I loved her and she was my partner. She said yes. My brother asked at the engagement party if I ever regretted how I handled Amanda. If I'd do anything differently. I thought about it. No, I wouldn't change anything. Even the harsh ending? Especially the harsh ending. Because it was clean, clear, final. Just consequences. You're cold, I'm honest. There's a difference. Hiding wealth. Testing people. Some call it manipulation. I call it protection. Because I found out people's true values, made informed decisions, and ended up with someone who loved me for the right reasons. Amanda wanted security and money. She was honest about that when she thought I couldn't hear. I was honest back by ending things and showing her consequences. My fiancé wanted partnership and love. She showed me that from the beginning without knowing she was being tested, just by being herself. That's what made her different. Because at the end of the day, I found someone who loved me for me. Not for my money, not for my potential, not for what I could provide. Just for me. And that's worth more than any trust fund. Worth the 6 years with Amanda, worth the test, worth the harsh ending, worth all of it. Because when someone shows you who they are, believe them. Amanda showed me she'd marry me if I were richer. So I showed her I was richer, and told her it was too late. She wanted someone with money. She got someone with money who didn't want her. That's not cold, that's consequence.